amazing presenters over here. I've been learning so much myself, taking notes. Thank you all very much. So today I'm going to be talking about the effects of Eastern meditation. So my background, I was a certified yoga instructor by the Yoga Alliance, and also an ACE personal trainer and nutrition specialist. So let's start with the definition of yogic meditation. First thing I'd like to point out is the symbol I used right here. Some of you may recognize this if you go into yoga studios, maybe some other places. This is the Om symbol. So for those who are unfamiliar with it, this is a representation from Hinduism of what you may call source or God energy that is in everything and supposed to also be in all of us as well. So I took some quotes from various popular yogic gurus and their definitions of meditation. So the first one is from Sadhguru. I used to listen to him a lot. He says, meditation means to know and experience life beyond the physical sphere, not on the surface, but at the source. The next one is, meditation is a way for nourishing and blossoming the divinity within you. And the last one I have is Yogananda. Meditation is the science of reuniting the soul with spirit. The soul, descending from God into flesh, manifests its consciousness and life force through 7 chakras, or centers of light, in a man's cerebral spinal axis. I think it's important to point out in this quote from Yogananda that he is saying that meditation is a science, and he uses the term cerebrospinal axis. It sounds scientific, but it's not really a real term. So this is who's practicing meditation now. So I have a lot of statistics up here. We have 200 to 500 million people meditate. That's globally. Over 14% of US adults have tried meditating at least once. Maybe some of you meditate. Maybe you know people who meditate. 7% of US children regularly practice meditation. And I know a lot of schools are bringing this in as a practice along with yoga as well. Women are twice as likely to meditate compared to men. Women also tend to be more drawn into yoga in our country. Adults aged between 45 and 64 are the age group that meditates the most. In the last 10 years, the number of US adults practicing meditation has tripled. And you can see it even in our media. I know I've seen things like meditation and yoga introduced on kids shows like Sesame Street. The value of the US meditation and mindfulness industry is estimated to be 2.07 billion. So I think there's a lot of, maybe you've seen apps that have been advertised to promote things called mindfulness meditation. This is a very lucrative business, actually. So we're going to get a little bit into the science of meditation and what's going on, since we're talking about hormones and such. Let's start with the brain here. So I have a before, and this is really an after and during meditation brain scan. The highlighted areas are the areas that are more active in the moment. And as you can see, everything's quieting down a lot less activity going on in the brain. So, kind of broken down into different parts of the brain here, what's going on. In the frontal lobe, that's the most highly evolved part of the brain here. It deals with your reasoning, planning, emotions, self-conscious awareness. It tends to go offline during meditation. The next one we have is an area that processes sensory information, so your surroundings, orienting you in time and space. I think that's very, very important because that is something that's slowing down a lot during meditation. In the thalamus, this organ focuses your attention by funneling sensory data deeper into the brain and stopping other signals. Meditation reduces the flow of incoming information to a trickle. And then the last one I have here deals with receiving incoming stimuli and puts the brain on alert, ready to respond, but it slows down a lot as well. So the next part that I have here are the hormones and how they're impacting everything. So the first one we have, AVP. It's shown to increase dramatically during meditation. It contributes to arousal and maintaining positive emotion. So that's a very interesting one to be increasing during meditation. The next one is dopamine. So I pulled up an article here from a pro-meditation website titled Meditation's Impact on Neurochemicals. And it talks about how meditation increased the release of dopamine during altered consciousness, which decreased the meditator's desire for action and executive control, heightened their sensory awareness, and increased their ability to detach themselves from the past or future. Dopamine is involved in regulating attention and is associated with feelings of pleasure and reward, and is the primary neurotransmitter involved in motivation and motor activity. This is a very addictive one. So as this is increasing, this is actually a lot of pro-meditation websites will talk about, yes, it gives you so much more dopamine. And so just keep practicing and you'll feel better. And for a while, this is true. You'll feel better for a while. But you'll also notice that the more you do it, the more you need it to continue to feel happy. So kind of like a drug, you have to keep going back to it. So then we have epinephrine, which is known as adrenaline. So it's a stress hormone. So studies have found that those reduce during meditation. So during meditation, the hypothalamus may inhibit adrenaline output, which decreases anxiety. So most people who I have taught meditation to, they came to me because of anxiety. Anxiety, stress, depression. So then we have GABA. So GABA, when it's induced, it mimics a calming effect. It's very similar to tranquilizing drugs such as Xanax. So the last few we have is serotonin. So that's another feel-good neurotransmitter. It heavily influences your mood. So it plays roles in things like sleep cycles, your appetite, pain, aggression, sexual behavior, just all sorts of things. And the serotonin levels actually start to increase as you meditate. Then we have melatonin. So this was an interesting study by the National Library of Medicine on advanced meditators. They have higher melatonin levels than non-meditators. Melatonin decreases during long meditation. The study did find that serotonin also declines after both 1 hour meditation and rest, indicating that serotonin may be a marker of general rest and not meditation-specific relaxation. That's going to be important later on, so just keep that in mind as well. So for the outline of my presentation, I'm going to be using Leo Gura's outline. So he's a teacher of meditation, he still is. He promotes various kinds of spirituality. So he has a YouTube video that I highly recommend, actually, that you go watch. It's The Dark Side of Meditation. I think this is really important that it's coming from somebody who still teaches this. He begins his video and ends his video saying, you should be meditating every single day and keep working on this. So let's go over his list. So these are the common long-term side effects of meditation. So we have hyperannoyance, hyperjudgmentalism, wild mood swings, feelings of loneliness, disgust, anger, crying, insomnia, depression, and meaninglessness. Now, doesn't that seem a little bit strange? This is not what people are expecting when they're getting into meditation. So what does he mean by long-term meditation? So long-term meditation is 6 months to a year of meditating daily. So that's when you get your serious meditators. I find this a little bit of a trick, right? When I first started meditating, I was like, wow, everyone should be doing this. Everyone could benefit from this. I feel so much more at peace, relaxed. I had dealt with severe anxiety, and I found that, oh, my mind, it's finally quieting down. Meditation is teaching me this. This is great. Everyone needs to do this. But things started changing after I got really good at meditation. So, like I mentioned before with dopamine and how it's addictive, as you start to see that, oh, this is working, this is calming me down, you also get the dopamine release, right? So you're feeling happier, feeling overall better, and you want to keep going back. And so people who I know and who I've taught, at first meditation is difficult, right? It's hard to learn how to silence your mind. But over time, they would continue to do it more. Maybe it was just a couple times a month, then it turns into several days a week, and then you start really benefiting more from it. And then you start doing it every single day. And then once you've been doing that, for me it hit the 6-month period. For some people it takes a little longer. But then you're going to have some weird side effects like this. But these are common side effects. So you'll feel weird when it happens, though. You know, like you've been so peaceful, better than you ever have. People are wondering, wow, what are you doing? Why are you so at peace all the time? This crazy thing happened, how's it not bothering you? But I found that just randomly, throughout my day, I'd start noticing, I'm experiencing some major discomfort, and I can't pinpoint where that's coming from. I don't know what's wrong. Why am I starting to judge these people harsher than I had ever been known to judge people? watching their actions. Meditation's supposed to chill you out. You're not supposed to be like that anymore. There are a lot of people I know who I went to school with. They started experiencing especially things like anger and disgust after a while. So there are people who go into meditation, maybe they have anger issues, and it's really helping them out. But it starts coming back after a while, but it comes back aggressively, and it makes them feel like something's wrong with them. What am I doing? I thought I was doing this correctly. And what happens is then they start thinking, okay, well, maybe I should be doing this more. I should be doing this longer. Maybe that'll help. Crying, that comes out of nowhere too. It's just the weirdest feeling. You can be absolutely fine. Nothing's happening. Everything's cool. You're just meditating. Everything's quiet. And then tears start rolling down your eyes. And I remember when I was in school, there were people who had been meditating longer than I had. And sometimes if we were sitting there meditating, those long-term meditators might burst out into tears, and they might be loud about it, almost wailing. And the rest of us were really concerned, like, hey, are you okay? Do you need to talk? They don't really know what's wrong either. So insomnia is an interesting one, because melatonin production is actually higher in long-term meditators. But as you progress, sleep actually gets a lot harder. It's almost like you have bursts of energy, especially when it's bedtime, which was very inconvenient. Depression and meaninglessness is a big one. So you have to understand the point of meditation, though. First, you may come into it thinking, I just want to deal with my anxiety, my depression, my stress levels, my anger. But the point of meditation is to realize that you are God. That is yogic meditation. That's why you are silencing everything. You're trying to really connect with the energies around you. You may start meditating not doing that, but once you start enjoying the meditation, starting to get the positive side effects, you're going to be looking into how do I do this the best I can? And that's usually where people start getting into the yogic Hindu side of it. And they didn't expect to be there, but a lot of them just ended up there and they're not sure how. So I have a quote from Leo. He says, I can almost guarantee that if you are going to be meditating for more than a year, you will be hit with some serious spells of depression, and that's totally normal. And you will at times feel like your entire life is meaningless. Everything you've done is meaningless. Your family's meaningless, your career is meaningless, your relationships are meaningless, even meditation is meaningless, and self-improvement is meaningless. You'll experience all this stuff. So some more things that he lists: interference with work, relationships, rash judgments, and suicidal thoughts. So I remember when I was getting very into this, it actually did cause a lot of rash judgments, because my number one thing was my spiritual journey, my spiritual path. And the more I meditated, the more I felt like, okay, yes, I'm becoming more one with source energy. And I can maybe almost see God is my soul inside of me. And when that happens, you place your things like meditation and yoga first, right? So things like work and socialization and things like that, sometimes it can feel like it's getting in the way. And There have been people who have just completely quit their jobs. They go back to go live with their parents so that way they can spend all of their time in meditation, trying to become one with Source. They stop socializing. So the suicidal thoughts one is really interesting. I took another quote from Leo. He said, "I can almost guarantee that if you are meditating effectively, you will have more suicidal thoughts than you've probably ever had in your life. And that's if you're a normal person. I'm not talking about suicidal people. I'm talking about totally normal people. From my meditation habit alone, the more I meditate, the more suicidal thoughts I have, and that's totally fine." It is crazy, yeah, right? Yeah, and I think something that's a really big deal with that is that he says you can be somebody who's never even been prone to suicidal thoughts, but he guarantees that you're going to start having them. And he's right. Every person I know who has been involved in long-term meditation and took it seriously started to have suicidal thoughts. You just ignore it and you push it down and realize it's normal, it's okay. Just look the other way. So, some other things we have that he listed. Freak out moments and you don't know why. So here's a quote from him. "Some of it is very subtle. Sometimes this stuff happens to you and you're not even making an immediate connection between you getting into a fight with your spouse and the fact that it stemmed from your meditation practice." Once again, this is coming from somebody who still practices this and teaches everyone to be doing this every day. I remember when I was first watching this, I thought that this was somebody who was anti-meditation. Because when you're looking at all these side effects, you're like, oh man, this seems like really bad. But it was also interesting looking at the comments under the YouTube video. Lots of people who were regular meditators saying, "Oh, thank goodness, I thought I was crazy. I'm experiencing all of these things. It's so good to know this is normal and expected." So there's ego backlash. So your ego in yogic meditation, ego is the one that you call you. So maybe your personality, your very individual thoughts. What you're trying to do, though, is you're trying to destroy your ego. In order to truly become enlightened and truly become one with the universe, you have to destroy you. So you can just be the thing that you always truly were all along. So ego backlash is an interesting experience. I remember experiencing it. So I was successfully able to shut off some of my ego. And in doing that for too long, it's kind of like and it could be some of the best and some of the worst parts of your personality are really trying to fight back not to die. Because it's you. This is not natural. This is not natural to destroy the main part of who you are. Another really strange side effect that's actually common is hyper-horniness, as he worded it. So, by the way, with all of these, I'm not saying you're going to experience every single one of these, but it's going to be a large amount of them. So I was not one of the people who experienced hyper-horniness, but some of my colleagues did. And it's interesting what happened to them. Some of them who had always said their whole lives that they had always been straight, started finding attractions in the same sex. And they said it actually stemmed from their meditation practices. So we also have repressed memories come up. That can be very difficult for people. If you've had trauma in your life, maybe some kinds of trauma that you have completely forgotten about, there is a good chance it's actually going to show up. And then you're going to have to deal with a completely new problem. So also expect waves of insanity and madness. He says expect it. Yes, expect it. I remember dealing with that too. If you're trying to destroy your ego, who you are, and you start having to deal with the fact that, oh, okay, so when I am talking to another person, I have to come to an understanding that I'm not talking to another person. I'm talking to me. I am alone in the universe. Everything is me, and I am it. That's going to cause some madness and insanity over time. I remember, though, if I started feeling that overwhelming feeling of, oh my goodness, I'm completely alone in the universe, I would just have to repress that and be like, okay, it's okay. I will create my own purpose by trying to enlighten all of the other parts of me out there, all the other people, and who they actually are by continuing to teach meditation and yoga. Self-doubt, nightmares and weird dreams, spiritual arrogance for sure. So he called them common weird side effects. Just remember, they're weird side effects, but they're still common. Every single person I went to school with has dealt with all of these, unlike the other symptoms. So tingling, jerking, shaking, various pains through your body, seeing lights and auras with your eyes open or closed, seeing vivid sexual fantasies, even things that just you would never be into, but it's just you're seeing it for some reason. Behaving like an animal. Let me explain this one. So you are everything, everything is you. So animal behavior shouldn't be so strange to you. I know sometimes when we were in class, meditating, just sitting down, everything's quiet. Sometimes people would start howling or growling. And this was supposed to the rest of us are supposed to ignore this. Like, it's okay. This is normal. In fact, if you're doing that, you're becoming more one with the universe. Good job. So paranormal things happening. So I took a quote from Leo on this. You might actually see angels and demons. Again, not imagined, but like standing before you, completely real as I look to you now. But it's going to be an angel or a demon, like out of a movie. You might see gods, deities, giant crawling insects, praying mantis people, spirit animals that talk to you, try to tell you things, or that maybe try to kill you, try to claw at you. So that stuff is so crazy. It's just so crazy. I remember I had never had more paranormal things showing up in my life than when I started getting really good at meditation. And this is something that you could easily find looking at people's experiences who are long-term meditators, just seeing all of the crazy paranormal things that were happening. It's more paranormal things were happening with that in my experience than even when I was involved in Wicca. So then here's some other things. So samadhi states, kind of explaining the I am you, you are I. This is a quote from Leo. You might be looking at your spouse or your children and actually become your children, literally. And that might freak you out, but generally this is something that is positive, and you should be actually anticipating that if you're doing serious meditation. So what he means by literally becoming them. I remember when I started becoming good with this stuff, I would be talking to people, maybe people who need help with something, things are not going well for them. So we know what empathy is and sympathy and feeling other people's emotions, but this is like another level of that. It's like for some reason you've gained an understanding of that person that they don't understand why you know all of these things about them for some reason, and you don't understand why you do either. It's almost like information was fed to you about this person. But it's actually something that if you're meditating, you're looking for. You want that to happen to you. So then there's Kundalini awakening. Leo's quote on that is, "It can be beautiful and terrifying because it might feel like you are losing your mind and you actually have this weird energy moving through you, and you start to behave as though your body is being controlled by a puppet master. Like you're not even in control of your body anymore. Your body is moving on its own and you have no idea what's controlling you. It's almost like you've been possessed." And I know I had experienced that towards the end of my time in these practices. When I started feeling like I wasn't the one speaking, I wasn't the one doing my movements, it didn't scare me. It was actually exactly what I'd been looking for the whole time. Because the thing they call like your highest self, maybe you've heard of that in other practices, your highest self, that's the source energy. So God energy. So that's supposed to be who you actually are. So you want to not be in control anymore. So after that, there's total blackout / void. The way that he explained it was really good. I had only experienced this once, but it was really freaky. So you're sitting there meditating and everything's quiet and silent and you're just trying to connect to the source energy so you can reach your realization. And maybe everything actually does go black. Everything shuts off and you're completely disoriented from time and space. And it may feel like you're in this blackness and you're stuck in this blackness for several minutes, and then you open your eyes and it's only been 20 seconds. But it's a really freaky experience that he says that you should expect. Ego death. Ego death, like I had mentioned, that's the point of meditation. You are trying to kill the ego. No more you, just the God energy that is inside of you. And then the last one that he lists for that is the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is when you actually do believe with all of your heart that this is reality, that you are the only one in the whole universe. And it can be very, very depressing for a lot of people. And this major depressive state that you go into is called the dark night of the soul. For some people, that can last maybe a week, and for other people, they can deal with it for years. So, alternatives. So, all of that was like the opposite of what people come to meditation for. People come into meditation to relieve stress and anxiety, but as you can see, those are common side effects, and they are the complete opposite of what you're looking for. We need to remember that Eastern meditation, it is a religious practice. It's a spiritual practice. It's not just a way to calm down. So I'd like to introduce to you the 5 senses technique. You may have heard of this. Sometimes doctors or therapists may recommend this as well. So if you find yourself starting to get anxiety and your mind's going crazy and you just want it to shh, this is a great method. So look for 5 things you can see around you. The lights, what does the tables look like? Maybe the people around you. 4 things you can touch. Maybe your phone, maybe the sleeves on you. 3 things you can hear in the silence. I hear maybe the air conditioning, maybe somebody whispering, or the sound of the bright lights. 2 things you can smell. Maybe somebody sitting next to you with perfume, or maybe you can smell the carpet from where you're sitting. And then 1 thing you can taste. That doesn't mean you have to have food with you. Maybe you can still actually taste what you ate earlier. Or maybe you can taste, actually sometimes when you can smell things, you can taste that as well, and focusing on these things. So just bringing everything back to your 5 senses. This is a great way to take your mind off of all the craziness. So depression is thinking about the past. Anxiety is thinking about the future. You want to bring yourself back to the present moment, and this is a great way to do that, to quiet everything down without trying to destroy your ego and empty your mind. So biblical meditation, what is that? So I have a few Bible verses for you. First one from Psalms is, "Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. I will also meditate on all your work and talk of your deeds. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you." And then, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. Not as the world gives, do I give you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." So, in Joshua 1:8, it says, "This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success." Joshua would have to truly immerse himself in the Word of God and put it into practice. Then he could successfully do what he was called to do by God. So, and then another Psalms for you. "But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaves does not wither. In all that he does, he prospers." So as we soak in God's word, we become fruitful in whatever God appoints us to do. So here's some steps to biblical meditation. So pick a passage, read it a few times, really take in each word, and meditate. So this form of meditation is thinking. It's the complete opposite of Eastern meditation. It teaches you don't think. Biblical meditation asks you to think, what is the purpose of this passage? What does this mean for my life? Maybe take notes on your questions and things that stand out to you. Then, prayer. Ask God to give you a greater understanding for what you are reading and to bring to mind areas in your life where changes could be made to fit more closely to his design. And then putting into practice. What does this passage teach you about how you should be thinking, speaking, or doing things? Take notes on how you will apply this to your life now. So finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. So, as I've kind of given with my background, I'm an ex-yoga teacher and meditation teacher. If any of you are still practicing any of these things, maybe you have questions, more questions to be answered before you can make a decision, or if you know somebody who is struggling with these things and maybe they're practicing meditation, yoga because of anxiety and depression, please feel free to email me. It's H like Hayley and Mundal, my maiden name, @gmail.com. And that's what I have for you.